Now, of course, Hillary Clinton has been criticizing Bernie Sanders on his different plans. For example, tuition-free college. Okay, going to college, essentially free college, even though it's technically not free, and as well as free healthcare, which is also technically not free. It's just paid for by a more efficient means of paying through your taxes. And of course, getting the rich people to be able to pay their fair share in taxes that right now they're avoiding. So, no, Hillary Clinton is saying, hey, those plans to do things that are actually more cost effective for the American people, they're unrealistic, they're pie in the sky, we'll never do it. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. And of course, for months, it's been her go-to attack of Senator Sanders. But after 7 wins in a row by the Sanders campaign, the last one being in Wisconsin, her campaign has now finally pulled out all the stops, they've taken the gloves off, and they're trying to hit Bernie Sanders right in the face. Now, one of these attacks is saying this: I'm concerned that some of his ideas just won't work because the numbers don't add up. Now, this was on Morning Joe, by the way, when she said this. Another attack was, I don't think he himself considers himself to be a Democrat. And in response to the Daily News hatchet job that was recently done, quote, I think he hadn't done his homework, and he'd been talking for more than a year about doing things that he obviously hadn't really studied or understood. Now, what's interesting about that, and that was a question about breaking up the big banks. Now, there's a lot of nuance in that question, right? And it gets a little wonky, and the questions themselves were set up in a way to try to confuse someone. For example, bringing in the Fed, when the Fed doesn't have anything to do with this. It's just the way that they frame those questions and the things they brought in were a way to not only confuse but trap Senator Sanders. And you should check out, there's all sorts of videos on this interview and why the questions were absolutely terrible. Now, it's all, of course, aligning with the new goal of Clinton that basically was highlighted on CNN, right? Her goal to disqualify and then defeat Bernie Sanders and then worry about party unification later. In fact, I do want to show you that clip because we showed it to you yesterday, but I want you to see it again.
They're running out of patience. So they're going to begin deploying a new strategy. It's going to be called disqualify him, defeat him, and then they can unify the party later. For the last several months, the Clinton campaign has been first ignoring Bernie Sanders, then dismissing him. Now they are going to go headlong into him, I'm told, beginning here in the New York primary in 2 weeks on his gun record, on other things. So party unity aside for now, one aide told me that will come later. They're going to start trying and defeating Bernie Sanders, so that scenario that you saw play out there on John's wall does not come true. The Clinton campaign is running out of patience. They want to stop Bernie Sanders and move on to the fall campaign.
The goal is to disqualify and then defeat Sanders. So, now with that context in place, Senator Sanders is going to strike back. He's not taking this lying down, and at a recent campaign stop, he said this.
Now, the other day, I think Secretary Clinton appears to be getting a little bit nervous. We have won 7 out of 8 of the recent primaries and caucuses. And she has been saying lately that she thinks that I am, quote unquote, not qualified to be president. Well, let me just say in response to Secretary Clinton, I don't believe that she is qualified. If she is through her super-PAC taking tens of millions of dollars in special interest funds. I don't think that you are qualified if you get $15 million from Wall Street through your super-PAC. I don't think you are qualified if you have voted for the disastrous war in Iraq. I don't think you are qualified if you have supported virtually every disastrous trade agreement which has cost us millions of decent paying jobs. I don't think you are qualified if you supported the Panama Free Trade Agreement, something I very strongly oppose, and which, as all of you know, has allowed corporations and wealthy people all over the world to avoid paying their taxes to their countries. This campaign is gaining momentum because we are listening to the American people, not wealthy campaign contributors.
Okay, so you saw that. Him saying, hey, Hillary Clinton, we don't think you're qualified because you take Wall Street money, because you support crappy trade deals. Take that. Now, of course, the response to that from the mainstream press has been swift. And even with Hillary Clinton. In fact, she went on Morning Joe and deflected on the question of, do you think Bernie Sanders is qualified? Deflected 3 different times. Deflected the question, wouldn't answer it. Also, she could point out and say, hey, look, man, I didn't call Bernie qualified. In fact, I think he's more qualified than Ted Cruz or Donald Trump. I don't know where he's coming from for this attack. I don't get it. Why is he attacking me like this? He must be lying. He's going so negative. He's being so nasty. I never said he was unqualified. That's politics 101. Remember, the goal of her campaign going forward, disqualify and defeat. She wants to make him seem unqualified, and she's getting help from the press to do it. Now remember, she's also attacked him on guns, which kind of blew up in her face, right? Because he has a D- rating from the NRA. He's not a friend of the gun manufacturers. What he is pointing out a common sense policy of, hey, let's not sue manufacturers of products for their intended use. Guns are intended to kill things, and unfortunately kill people. Now we should regulate those guns so that people don't do that. But you can't sue the gun manufacturer over that, just like you can't sue a car maker over somebody running someone over. That's not what you do. You can't do that. You have to regulate the cars. You have to regulate the guns. It makes sense. It's just a sensible position, and Bernie Sanders is sensible on that issue. But here's the thing. I said she was getting help from the media. Well, the Daily News hatchet job was a good assist in trying to do that. Remember, that whole interview was filled with gotcha questions and shitty journalism in order to try to paint him as someone who has no idea what the hell they're talking about. He tried to trip him up, trap him, and confuse him. The questions didn't make any sense. But it was there, it was designed in order to make him look like he's unqualified, while simultaneously helping her to look like she's a victim when he throws that accusation right back at her. Now, on the issue of whether or not I think Hillary Clinton is unqualified, no, I disagree with that, actually. I think she's more than qualified to be president of the current system, the status quo. If you want no real change, go with Hillary Clinton. You're going to get 5% change on the outside, continuity on the inside. But if you want someone who will actually fight for real change and real progress, then there's no doubt that Bernie Sanders is your guy.